What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. We have a lot of new stuff to talk to you about today, as Invest 95L is rapidly organizing and potentially going to rapidly intensify once it develops, as it is in the best conditions that I have ever seen for the month of June. I am not hyperbolizing this when I say this. These are some of the best conditions I have ever seen for the month of June. These are better conditions than June of 2020, when we had that hyperactive hurricane season, and we had several named storms in that month. Well, what I'm going to say is Burl is coming up very soon. I apologize for stuttering right there. And we're going to go over everything that we have. We have track models, intensity models, we have ensemble models and hurricane models to show you all of it for today, as this is becoming an increasing threat for the Lesser Antilles over the next 5 days or so. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Here's the situation with 95L. We'll briefly go over 94L towards the end of this segment, but I'm not paying as much attention to it as I am with 95L for obvious reasons. A tropical wave located several hundred miles west-southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands continues to produce disorganized shower and thunderstorm activity. Environmental conditions are forecast to be conducive, and development of this system is anticipated. A tropical depression or tropical storm is likely to form this weekend, as it moves 15 to 20 miles per hour closer to the Windward Islands, and it is expected to form several hundred miles east of the Windward Islands. Interests in the Lesser Antilles should monitor the progress of the system. We now have a 60% chance of development in the next 48 hours and an 80% chance of development in the next 7 days. What were we looking at 24 hours ago? Let's go ahead and show you what we were seeing 24 hours ago. It was 10 and 40. Now it's rapidly escalated to 60 and 80. Ladies and gentlemen, I also looked at the ASCAT from last night, and it's one of my guys in my Discord server was like, this looks like it could possibly develop in the next 24 to 36 hours, and I absolutely agree with that, for a couple of reasons. Number one, what you have going on with Invest 95L right now is you're starting to see an increase of deep convection that's able to sustain itself, at least in one certain area. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and show you the visible satellite just to give you an understanding of what we're looking at right here. We're seeing an increase of deep convection across a lot of areas. We saw a lot of convection fire up on all cylinders last night, especially late in the night as the diurnal maxing was getting to peak around sunrise. The convection did level off as the sun began to rise, but that's to be expected. And regardless, the fact that it's sustaining deep convection right now is very concerning for me, to say the very least. And I know the second it starts developing stuff and it has that closed low near the center of circulation, it's go time for this thing, because it's in the best conditions June has to offer. It's a very compact system that could very quickly organize, and it already is very quickly organizing, and there is no sign of really any infighting that we saw with Tropical Storm Alberto from about a couple weeks ago. So that's what we're looking at as of right now. What are these conditions you're talking about, Patrick? You've been saying, you've been piping and you've just been parroting what the NHC is saying, but you're not showing us the conditions, Patrick. Why should we be so worried about this? Here's why you should be worried about this. Here's the global sea temperatures. 28 to 30 plus degrees Celsius waters across the main development region and across the Caribbean Sea where this thing is going. For those of you who tuned into the United States, that's 82 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit. The magic number for hurricane development is 80 degrees, typically. It can happen with lower temperatures. It has happened. We saw that with Hurricane Dawn last year, but that's besides the point. This is why I'm so concerned about this. The Caribbean Sea from last year is untapped. No system got into the deeper part of the Caribbean Sea. Yes, we had Adalia in the Northwest Caribbean, and yes, we had Tammy and Brett in the Eastern Caribbean, but they quickly either got killed off or moved out to sea. Or in the case of Adalia, they made landfall in the Florida Big Bend. Anyway, so here's what I'm worried about. This central area of the tropics called Caribbean right here, where it's the warmest water and the highest ocean heat content values. This is the OHC as of yesterday right here. Unfortunately, the University of Miami website hasn't updated it today. We'll see if they do that tomorrow. Regardless, the point still stands. where Invest 95L is right now, it's in an area of about 50 to 75, cracking 80 OHC in some areas. Where it's headed to, especially as it approaches the Windward Islands, is areas exceeding 100 to 125 OHC. OHC is essentially the measurement of how warm the water is and how deep down it goes. That's all there really is to it. There's a bit of calculus and dynamics to it. I'm not going to get into that because we'd be here for 30 minutes. The point I'm trying to make here is we have a lot of fuel in the gas tank for this thing to organize and develop. These are some of the best conditions I have ever seen in the month of June. And I'm not taking this very lightly, and the National Hurricane Center isn't taking this very lightly. Matter of fact, they actually had in one of their earlier updates right here, if I can find it very quickly, from yesterday, that this is what we have right here. Environmental conditions to be unusually conducive for June across the central and western tropical Atlantic, and further development is anticipated. Those are the NHC's words, not mine. And seeing this global sea waters and the insane ocean heat content that we are seeing is very scary to see on its own. But that's only part of the equation. We also have to take a look at the wind shear and the dry air. Here's the wind shear that we have right here. It's going to be entering in a period, if this was to hold, a period of relatively strong wind shear as it approaches the Windward Islands. Where it is right now is in a wind shear pocket of around 10 to 15 knots, which is perfect for development of these kinds of systems. However, based on the shear forecasts I've been taking a look at, that wind shear really lifts up and it weakens considerably as it approaches the Windward Islands. That is something I've been paying attention to over the last few days, and that's something I've been continuing to monitor in that time period as well. So that's what we have the wind shear. Next thing we need to take a look at is the dry air. Is the Sahara air layer going to suppress it? Not really. It's in a very robust, moist pocket of air, and it's going to develop and organize off of that. Yes, there is some dry air across much of this region over here, but that's expected to lift as this moist air starts to move into the region towards the Lesser Antilles. And the Sahara air layer that's over here, it's too far north for it to really suppress anything. So that's why I'm concerned about it. Also, I'm noticing as well, there's quite a bit of a significant amount of outflow going on with the system. That is telling me that even though this isn't named and this thing hasn't truly developed, there is a lot of outflow with this, and there's a lot of ventilation with this, which only goes to show that this could be a big threat down the road. But that's what we're looking at right here. We're going to go ahead and show you some the current storm information that we have on Invest 95L. Maximum sustained winds as of right now, as of the 7 a.m. update, are 25 knots or 30 miles per hour. Its current location is 10 degrees north and 33.8 degrees west. Minimum central pressure is 1,011 millibars. Not too surprised about it. It's a relatively small system compared to what we were seeing with Alberto and a few of the other invests. But I do expect that pressure to completely sink and collapse as we continue to see the system strengthen. And this is what we have going on with the current satellite. Here's the track models that we have pulled up for you right here. The track models are very much in alignment as this approaches the Windward Islands. We're expecting this to approach in about 4 or 5 days from now, and expect to make a landfall as a pretty big situation that we have going on. It's either going to make landfall in St. Lucia, I believe Grenada, or a few of the other islands that are down there, as well as Barbados. They're also in a big risk of it right there. And then afterward, it moves into the Caribbean, and it actually moves far enough north to keep it be able to sustain itself and keep it away from the kind of the graveyard of early June hurricane season right here. So that's something that I'm keeping an eye on and something I'm paying very close attention to. Also paying attention to the intensity models. This is for a June storm. This isn't for like late August, September, or anything like that. We are seeing multiple major hurricane possibilities with this. We're obviously seeing it with the H-Wharf, we're seeing it with the HAVS-B, we're seeing it with the Icon, we're seeing it with several of the other models right there. But either way, point still stands, majority of the models keep this at hurricane strength. And of those, the majority keep it around Category 2 or 3 hurricane strength. That's what we're paying attention to right here. That's why I'm concerned that this thing could rapidly intensify right here, because we have the best conditions this has to offer, and I'm going to show you why. We're going to start with the European model right here. We're going to use the 0 for the shear and moisture forecast. when it comes to this. Let's go ahead and start with that right here. Let's start with the 200 to 850 millibar wind shear, and let's just we're going to focus on two primary areas. This big ridge area right here, east of the Lesser Antilles, and the Central Caribbean. Let's go ahead and see what's going on with that. Let's go ahead and start about 48 hours out. Yeah, the wind shear does persist in this part of it right here, but in this instance, until it gets to the Lesser Antilles, this kind of orientation of the wind shear could actually help with tropical development. The reason why is, as you remember from earlier, it has a lot of ventilation with this system, and that wind shear that's driving it further to the east, if any of that inflow gets caught into that, that's going to help the inflow significantly and allow for a better chance for this thing to organize and develop. It's also going to tighten the pressure gradient around this area of interest and allow for this thing to potentially intensify at a very fast rate. So we're going to have to pay very close attention to that right there. But going to 72 hours out, as the system starts to really ramp up, the wind shear does start to lift in the Central Caribbean as well as it approaches the Lesser Antilles right here. You see it really just go from kind of a blocking pattern to the west to a blocking pattern to the north, and allow for the system to organize and develop as it gets closer to land over here. And then you have this situation in the Central Caribbean right there. Normally, this would be an area where it would kill off tropical cyclones. Because the wind shear is going to be a lot weaker than what we were anticipating, we were actually seeing some models that were indicating potentially up to 30 knots of wind shear, 30 knots less of wind shear than average in some of these areas in the Caribbean. It's not going to really do that much, and the only hope we have after this point is the dry air as the system moves through and potentially impacts either Central America or the Greater Antilles over there. It's too far out to really determine what it's going to do after it impacts the Lesser Antilles. Let's go ahead and show you the moisture forecast. Moisture is a similar situation to the wind shear. Remember, it's in this very robust pocket of wind shear, moist air Invest 95L is. And the dry air, it's not really apparently going to intrude that much. As it continues through the Caribbean, a lot of the moist air that follows it really just kind of eats up all the dry air that it's in between it and allows for a much more moist environment for this thing to organize and develop. So this is why I'm taking this very seriously, because this is one of those rare situations where we're having all the perfect conditions for the month of June. And normally what we would see with June is we'd see high wind shear in the Caribbean and a lot of dry air. We're not seeing that this time, and this to me is a pretty big indicator of what we could be seeing down the road as we get into August and September. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and move back a little bit over here right now. I want to go ahead and take a look at a couple of things. I want to go ahead and start and take a look at the Ensemble runs to kind of see what they're forecasting with this right here, at least with forecast models. This is about 5 days out right here, and that's kind of the most I'm trusting, because this is the first wave that we're seeing. This is the first line of defense right here, I would like to say, with the Lesser Antilles. This is, I believe, the European Ensemble runs. All of these models have it range from strong tropical storm to potentially up to Category 3 hurricane as it gets to the Windward Islands. Yeah, those and all this the ensembles you see right here. Actually, let me go ahead and move this over a little bit for the optimal viewing position. All these ensembles that we're seeing right here kind of are different scenarios of what we're looking at. The European has 51 different ensembles. I can count at least 40 to 45 of these scenarios, really just impacting anywhere from I believe, I'm not sure which the island south of Dominica is right here, all the way down to Trinidad and Tobago. Please let me know in the comments down below. I'm not too familiar with the Lesser Antilles, even though I cover them all the time. It's been a minute. But that's the Europeans ensembles right here. Here's the GFSs. A lot more scattered, which is pretty interesting. Also a bit weaker, down to a strong tropical storm, maybe weak hurricane, as it approaches the Lesser Antilles right there. What's really going to go down to is if this tropical system can take advantage of those good conditions it's given right there. That's really what it boils down to at this current point in time. And it's definitely something I'm going to continue to monitor as we get more data and more information. With that being said, though, we're going to end this out and just show you the hurricane forecast models that we have pulled up. I know I'm moving the screen over a lot. I do apologize for that. I just wanted to give you the optimal viewing point just so that way you know what I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and start with the hurricane models. We're going to go ahead and start with the HMON, then the HAVS A, the HAVS B, and then the GFS, and then the HWRF to kind of end it out right here and right there. here. Let's go ahead and start with the HMON that we have pulled up, and we're actually going to use main sea level pressure and 10 meter wind speeds, because that's where surface winds are going to be like. So let's go ahead and start to about 24 hours out. Yeah, you can see the system really starts to deepen its pressure. Right now it's 1,011, gets down to 1,005, and that's just the very beginning right there. Then you can see in the next 36 hours, the HMON wants this thing to strengthen up into a tropical storm. And then it starts to ramp up in intensity, gets down to 995, 992 by 51 hours out, which is on Saturday right here. So we're going to have to pay very close attention to this. We're going to have to take this very seriously. It also grows in size quite a bit, the wind field does. The HMON at 12Z wants this thing to get to potentially Category 2 strength by 3 days out, and potentially major hurricane strength 3.5 days out. We'll get down to 963 millibars. It approaches the Lesser Antilles, moves south of Barbados, and it's a 961 millibar system as around a Category 2, high-end Cat 2, low-end Category 3 hurricane. Then it moves through, makes landfall, I believe, in St. Lucia as a 120-mile-per-hour Category 3 hurricane, according to the latest HMON run. What this is really going to boil down to, once again, is if it's going to take advantage of those conditions, and the HMON is showing this at this current point in time. Then it moves into the Caribbean, kind of is able to sustain itself because of the much better conditions than normally in the month of June, climatologically speaking, and we'll have to see what happens from there. It's too far out to kind of determine what happens after the Lesser Antilles. That's the HMON. Let's go ahead and show you the Halves A run. Here is what we have pulled up for you right here. Halves A is also pretty interesting right here. Let's go ahead and show you that very quickly. Once this thing get down to tropical storm strength by about 24 hours from now, and then you start to see the gradual organization, and then it starts to organize at a lot faster of a pace. It gets down to about hurricane strength, Category 1 hurricane strength, potentially Cat 2 hurricane strength as it approaches the Lesser Antilles as a 975 millibar system. Then it moves through, it starts to sustain itself, mainly thanks to the lower wind shear, but it does start to weaken a little bit as it approaches potentially the Dominican Republic and Haiti, but again, it's too far out to determine if it will affect the greater Antilles. Let's go ahead and next show you the Halves B model run right here. This is what we have right here with that. Starts to organize, really develop, starts to really strengthen as it approaches the Lesser Antilles. It's going to be organizing and strengthening several hundred miles to the east of that, and by the time it gets to Barbados, we're already looking at Category 2 strength with this, and then it moves just south of St. Lucia, I believe St. Lucia or Grenada, right here as a 961 millibar system, Category 3 hurricane. Then it enters the Caribbean. It's able to sustain itself with the better conditions it has. That's pretty much the same story with this. Next model we'll show you is the GFS. The GFS is the outlier out of all of this right here. The GFS, yes, does want this to strengthen. Actually, no, it's not the outlier this time. It actually wants this as a Category 2 hurricane, striking Barbados and St. Lucia over here, and then entering the Caribbean, pushing it further to the north as it approaches Hispaniola. But by that point, it's too far out to really determine conclusively what's going to happen with that. Last model we're showing you is the H-Wharf right here. This is going to be, once again, a bit of a longer video than anticipated, but I wanted to get all the information out that I can, so that way you guys know what the hell's going on. So here's what the H-Wharf's going. It's really having this thing strengthen up to a tropical storm strength in the next 24 hours, which has been a very concerning trend for all of these models right there. Gets it up to hurricane strength in the next 3 days or so, and then it really starts to ramp up in intensity as it approaches the Lesser Antilles over there. 959 millibar system. This is a potentially high-end Category 3 hurricane moving through the Windward Islands right here, according to the H-Wharf. Do I think it's likely at this current point? We'll have to wait and see. It's too early to determine what's going on, but the H-Wharf wants this to get up to a Category 4 hurricane as it enters the Caribbean Sea and starts to prosper in some of the better conditions it is offering it. I wanted to go ahead and show you guys these models. These model runs are obviously subject to change. We're still 4 to 5 days out from any potential threat in the Lesser Antilles, but you guys need to pay very close attention to this, and I will keep you updated here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. One announcement I will make before ending this video is there will be no afternoon video tomorrow. Instead, what I'm planning to do is a multi-hour live stream starting around 8 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, or 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time, which is where I am. I live in the Midwest. And we're going to be covering this. We're also going to be having some guys at Storms United. Hopefully, we'll have Weather Center Nazario on for a little bit to give some analysis and all that stuff right there. But we're going to close the video out by saying this. Take this very seriously. It's in the best conditions June has to offer, and I will keep you updated here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. We're closing the video out right here. I really hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. It helps us out, helps us make more videos like these. The goal of this channel, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather, and if you want to come join the discussion at our Storms United Discord server, be sure to join it. Link to that is right over there. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.